Welcome to the Michael Artsis Show. I'm Michael Artsis. Thanks so much for joining us. So much is going on in the world of tech, in the world of sports, in the world in general, and so much good news. I spent the early part of the day doing a really cool story that we'll be bringing to you on BeTerrific.com with digital silver imaging and rock paper photo. Rock paper photo takes rock legends, photographs that have never seen the light of day from rock legends, and they make them artwork and sell them as collector's items. It's not memorabilia, it's art. It's super cool, and we're going to be bringing you a story about them and digital silver imaging that is one of the printers they use, and to tell you the difference between just printing out your photos and archivally printing them out and artistically printing them out. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It was certainly a great story, and they've got a pop-up store in Soho, New York. If you want to go check that out for the holidays or buy someone something as a gift for the holidays, you definitely have to check that out. That's 150 Worcester Street in New York City in the heart of Soho. While you're there, you can check out the Adidas store, the North Face store. It's a perfect area to also check out the REI store, and of course walk around and see some of the great art galleries that still exist in Soho, though the neighborhood has changed a lot. Even Samsung and Apple are there. There's a Samsung Experience down on Prince Street, just across from the Apple store. A whole lot of great stuff going on. It was a lot of fun to be down there with those guys and see some of the artwork and the photos and hear the stories behind them. And they've hooked up with a group from Hollywood that has some great Hollywood photographs as well. And we'll be talking to those guys in the future, too. They've got like Marlon Brando shots and shots of Clint Eastwood, all behind-the-scenes stuff. I found this one picture of Paul Newman really interesting because, Paul Newman was really a tough guy, right, in the movies, and he was a cool dude. There's this shot of him young, hunched over between takes, and he just looks like a schlep, like a wimp. He's got nothing. He looks defeated. He looks tired. He's not the tough guy we all thought that Paul Newman was, especially in The Color of Money or any of those Cool Hand Luke, any of those movies that we certainly watched Paul Newman. And speaking of film and filmmaking, DSLRs play a huge part of filmmaking and filming and that art and medium. They also play video production and photographs. So this is a great tie-in for our guest here, my good friend Mitch from Planet 5D. This is Planet Mitch. Mitch, thanks so much for joining us from, what is it? It's not sunny and it's not balmy and it's probably not that cold, but it's probably a little bit miserable in the St. Louis area.
Michael, glad to be here. Great to be here. It is sunny and balmy. I am in my observatory here at Planet 5D. That's my new studio. I call it the observatory. What do you think?
I think it's interesting. I think that I liked your old studio. I missed that. It had, there was a lot more, and I'm just being honest here, there was a lot more personality in it and a lot more like you in it, and it felt like homey and stuff, and now I've got white walls and a screen, which is cool. I've been watching the videos, but I think we need a little bit more Mitch, a little bit more attitude.
Are you calling me a homie?
I'm just saying, where is Alf?
I know, Michael. I've got designs on making a lot more personality here in the observatory. I'm going to have some astronomy-based theme stuff, and I'm going to do more with it. But
now let me ask you something. Let me cut you off for a second, and thank you so much for joining us. And now I imagine by saying observatory, Mitch, that you're talking about somewhere in the top of the house, like the attic. But I would imagine by the white walls that you're in a basement, especially in a lighting scenario for television. So, what is this? Is this in a basement? Is this in an attic? Where are we on Planet Mitch?
That's a darn good question, Michael. I am actually hunkered down in the basement. It's a fascinating basement story, which I could go on for a couple of hours probably, but the gentleman who built our house, and it's part of the reason I bought the house, was afraid of the bomb, the big bomb, the nuclear bomb back in the 40s, late 40s, early 50s. So the ceiling in our basement is like what you would see in the basement of a large building. It's concrete. There's 6 inches of concrete above my head.
So,
Now,
so
typically,
is this why the internet connection is so bad? We can't get a good internet connection. You had a beautiful internet connection in your office, but here we've got in the old studio. But here we've got the. It looks like we have the lunar landing here.
do you really?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good there. I've got 5 bars,
Peter, how's
but
his internet connect? What, you're on your cell phone?
no, I'm on a laptop.
Peter, how's his internet connection look? Am I crazy? These people at home must be going nuts who are watching this.
No, it looks pretty choppy.
It looks pretty choppy. The people at the office, at their offices too. All right. So that's okay. Listen. We're all friends, and
But Mitch, you look great.
You do look great, Mitch. And we've got to help each other out here. So, I'm wondering if the concrete plays a role in it. I know a little bit about internet signals. Are you on Wi-Fi?
Well, yes, I am on Wi-Fi. It is a laptop, and it is going through multiple layers of concrete, I guess. I haven't had any trouble.
That explains your issues. Can you drill through the concrete and add cabling?
Well, actually, I'm looking up over there because actually the cable that goes to the internet is actually going right through here. They had to drill through the wall in order to get it to come into the basement. So it's right here. I should just tap into it, right?
You should. You should tap into it. All right. So let's hear the rest of this basement story. So you've got this great new set for Planet 5D. We're actually kind of, I think, as you said, you have a lot of work to do still. So we're kind of seeing behind the scenes before it's completely done.
Correct. And to some degree, I mean, I will be adding some stuff back here, but obviously the TV is, I'm going to be doing some training materials and some broadcasts here. I do some product reviews, so I've done some of those down here. I needed a good place. I mean, my office upstairs, which they're actually backwards, okay? Maybe I should just change the titles because I call my office the planetarium and I call this the observatory. But maybe they should be reversed because this is in the basement and that's upstairs. I don't know. It's all so confusing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I agree. And I think you should switch them. But we never got the rest of the story. What's the deal? So the ceiling is concrete and you were going to say something and then I cut you off and that was it. We're going to change topics. We can move on.
No. So the gentleman who built this house was afraid of the bomb. So
Fallout
he made
shelter.
the very first floor be concrete. Above my head, maybe if I just tilt this up a little bit,
Sure.
you will see that I painted cinder block. Now if you want the full tour, I mean there's the basement, and you can see the cinder block, and there's a microphone up there, and I've put cameras and all sorts of stuff in here. So you're really getting behind the scenes when you're looking at the junk in the other part of the basement.
Yeah, I do see that. Now, what are those lights? Are those low lights?
They are very sophisticated lights that I've spent a lot of money on. They're Home Depot lights with compact fluorescent bulbs in them.
Got it. All right. Very nice. Look, you got to start somewhere, and you got to, with the new studio. And look, that's how I started. I tell people all the time. They ask me. I used to go to Home Depot and buy those construction lights and cut the cages off. And for $80, I had two sets of lights. I had four lights and could light up literally a city. And it was great in the winter. I'd turn the heat off and do stuff out of my studio, which was an apartment.
So that devution you see there is actually a shopping bag, a plastic grocery bag.
No, it's not. You should take that off. That could melt. Don't do that. All right, Mitch. Let's talk seriously about some stuff. We've got some big news out of Vitek today. You guys know the Vitek brand, Vitek Videocom, a great brand. They have Manfrotto. They've got Sackler. They've got all sorts of great brands, including Teradek. We use the Teradek Cube and the Bond all the time. And now they've added to their portfolio, Mitch, they've added small HD. And I imagine that Teradek will wind up putting their chips into the small HD monitors. And that's with no insider information. That's what I just imagine. What do you think of this?
Yeah. Well, I've always loved small HD. They make some great monitors. I actually was involved with them when they first started out.
Yeah, their story is amazing. These guys won the Dorito commercial one year for the Super Bowl and got a pile of money. And they...
You know why they won that?
Because they're good filmmakers? Because they had a good concept?
because we featured it on Planet 5D, of course.
There you go.
That was one of the very first blog posts about the Doritos commercial, was their commercials, and people loved the commercial on Planet 5D, so they voted for it. So it's all my fault. I take the blame for it.
It is. So they win the commercial, they get all the money, they take the money, and they decide they're getting all these calls for commercials, and they can't find any good monitors, so they decide to make their own. I like the guys. I've interviewed them several times. Nice guys out of North Carolina, Wes, and I forget the other guy's name. And then, look, they do a good job. There are a lot of monitor companies we like, but they do a good job. And you really like it. You're always pushing them. You're always telling me you got to get with the small HD, and we've used them. They're good. I did a review on them earlier in the year, and now they're part of the Vitek brand, which is awesome, in my mind.
It is awesome. I think it's great for them. Hopefully, they've become rich gurus now that they're in with Vitek. I don't know. Maybe they're not rich now, but it's always great to see somebody that started out small become big.
Yeah. Mitch, what do you think? I mean, there are a lot of people apparently online who have mixed feelings. I think this is only a positive. What is your feeling? A lot of people don't like when a small company joins a big corporation.
Well, there are pluses and minuses, of course. I used to work for a huge corporation by the name of Boeing. Ding! See, that was perfect. I don't know. Can you hear the dings?
I did hear the ding. What is that? That sound effect you got going? You what do you got?
No, actually, that for some reason, and I haven't figured it out yet why, but well, I know why. I just don't know how to turn it off, and I wasn't worried about it before. But my kids are texting me, and that's OS 10 Yosemite doing the dings when the thing pops up. But it just happened to be perfect timing. But I did work for Boeing. I know what big corporations are like. Sometimes when you're in the big corporation, they really suck. They also are really good sometimes. I mean, I had great insurance benefits, and I had great salary, and I could have had a job for life if they didn't lay me off and tell me my job was going overseas. But there are all sorts of good things that can happen. And then, of course, there are bad things. So it just depends upon who's doing the buying and who's doing the selling.
Right. Absolutely. I would agree 100%. I think this is going to be a good fit, and I think they're going to be able to work them into the Vitek brand very well and work well with a lot of the other brands like Teradek. What do you think is the best camera on the market right now for DSLR people? They want to get something. They've got some money for the holidays. There are some good deals out there. What is the best camera, and then what is the best deal?
I hate to say this, Michael, but I haven't been paying attention to the deals. I'm not in the market right now for my own camera. I've got several cameras that I'm perfectly happy with, so I'm not in the market, and I have been watching the deals.
What's the best camera? What's the best camera?
Well, I think it breaks down to three, to be honest with you. There isn't just one. I still love the 5D Mark III, the Canon 5D Mark III, but there are two popular models besides that one right now, and that's the Sony A7S and the Panasonic GH4. Both of those shoot 4K. In order to get 4K out of the Sony A7S, you've got to have the Atomos Shogun to go with it, so you need some external devices.
Well, hold on a second. It doesn't have to be the Atomos Shogun. It happens to be a great solution, but you could go to an Aja Quad Key Pro, and you could also go to the new Convergent Design Odyssey 7Q Plus, which will take HDMI, 4K over HDMI.
You're right. You're right as usual, Michael. You are right.
But I love Atomos. I don't mind the plug. I just don't. I want to straighten it out that I wanted to say that you could go to other options. That's all.
There are other options. You are right. I still am not shooting 4K, and I won't be shooting 4K anytime soon because I don't think it's necessary. But there are those people who feel like they need to be shooting 4K, and for those people, those are the best options. I still have my 5D Mark III, and I use it every day.
What about Canon? There are a lot of rumors that Canon's going to come out with a DSLR2 in, say, January or February. Big announcements. and one of them will shoot 4K very reasonably. There's another school of thought that completely believes that Canon has completely decided to abandon the DSLR video progression and only put it into their cinema line, so that you have to buy Cinema Series cameras to shoot the best video, and they want you to buy a C300, which will, a C300 Mark II alleged, will be the next 4K camera from Canon.
Well, I don't believe that in any way, shape, or form. They just put out the Canon 7D Mark II, which has all the video features in it. And
yeah, but they didn't have any progression. It's the same video that the 5D Mark III had, pretty much, with a couple of little tweaks here or there.
It has the new dual sensor autofocus, dual pixel technology, which gives the autofocus, which none of the other vendors have. So I think that's a significant feature. Not everybody in the world does manual focus when they're making videos.
The A7S does have a really good autofocus system, though.
It's not as good as the Canon's.
Okay.
But a lot of, I mean, you wanting to dive right into the 4K discussion. I mean, everybody in the planet is saying, quote unquote, 4K, but very few people are actually shooting it and delivering it, because there aren't any TVs that people are using. And so to blast Canon for saying, well, you're not delivering 4K and a cheap camera, they know the market doesn't need it.
No. I didn't blast them. I'm asking you a question. I put a question to you. That's all. I didn't blast them. I've been a big proponent that everybody should wait a little bit and not necessarily rush into 4K. What are your needs? What are you trying to accomplish? And you have to realize that there's a huge infrastructure you have to put in place to edit 4K, which would include a server and hard drive array, not daisy chaining hard drives. And it takes up a massive amount of storage, and you have to have the right recording systems and backup and all of that to do 4K. And a compressed 4K like you're talking about on the GH4 is okay, but doesn't really look that much better than HD. So to get real 4K uncompressed, you've got to use a Sony FS7, a Sony A7S, a C500 from Canon, or any of these other cameras, even all the way up to the Red, that the reality is you need to use a massive amount of storage, and you need to be ready for that storage, not only for how you're going to edit it, but also capturing it on the camera. And then you also have to have computer systems that are fast enough to handle this data.
Michael, you know I love you, but I didn't say you were the one that was saying that. I said everyone who is complaining about Canon blasts Canon because they're not shipping a cheap 4K DSLR like the Panasonic or the A7S.
Right.
And I just know that Canon doesn't believe the market's there for it, and I don't either. So, and until all of those things happen where HD storage becomes really cheap, and you and I both have talked about this extensively in the past, that people aren't buying the dang 4K TVs that are up on the shelves in Best Buy and all those other places. They've had to lower the prices just to try to get people to do it, but there still isn't any content delivery. Even if you buy a 4K TV, you can't watch anything. There aren't any DVDs that come out. There's just not the content there. So filmmakers, people who read Planet 5D and other websites seem to constantly complain that Canon's not delivering 4K, but you and I both know that Canon's really sort of, I think, right at this point, that there isn't really a market for it. And those people that need it are willing to pay more for it, or they're going to go cheap with the GH4. And I'm not saying it's a bad camera, but, it's not, like you said, traditional, great, uncompressed 4K. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't love the GH4, and I think you're right. There's no delivery method, right? You could say YouTube all you want, or Netflix or whatever, but the reality is they're not really streaming real 4K. You're not going to have the pipeline to be able to accept it in your house. You probably don't have a device. Apple TV and all these little boxes from Amazon and Roku don't do 4K. So
right.
Yes, you can do a PlayStation or whatever else, but there are things, but it's not widely adopted. So the reality is, I think it's great for trade shows if you're going to display something, in a trade show booth on a plasma, or a flat screen. One player, one screen, you can do these stunning things. You can do it for archival purposes and actually deliver it in HD. And of course, you can do it for movies that you're going to project in a theater or in a private event with a 4K projector. But short of that, there is no delivery method. There's not going to be a television or a broadcast or a cable delivery method for years. It might never come because cable might go to the wayside by the time that happens. And look, we're not even necessarily giving everybody full HD 1920 by 1080 still, especially over cable and and the internet as well. So a lot is 720. And a lot of people are watching standard def that they're stretching and they don't even realize it.
That is true. And I tend to really sort of feel recently that the biggest technology leap is going to be in using that, what's the word? Gosh, all of a sudden my brain's not working. But taking a 1080 signal and up-resing it, that's the word I'm looking for, to 4K, those things are starting to look pretty good. Just like you said, I mean, if I'm watching sports from ESPN, it's a 720 signal, right? I mean, almost every pipe that comes down in the United States, they're down to their cable, through the cable, is a 720 signal that's being up on TV to 1080. So, I mean, like you said, we're not even delivering 1080 in many cases. So to think that we're going to go to 4K anytime soon and the extra costs, I'll tell you, I've told you this story before, I think, Michael, but I was talking to a director of photography that is shooting a nationwide TV show, and I asked him about whether they were going to 4K, and he says, well, hell, we can't afford the 15% extra costs to shoot 4K. He says, we're shooting a terabyte of data a day on 1080. Why would I want to go to 4 terabytes of data and have all that extra data wrangling? The executives are choking us to death on budget now. Why would I add 15% to the cost of our show? So broadcast TV doesn't want to go to 4K. No, the only people that want to go there are the people that are trying to sell you a 4K TV.
Or a 4K camera. I gotta agree with that, and I think that at some point too, when's it enough? Like, when's it good enough? I think that 1080 is really good. 4K is amazing, but I don't know that we need it, and it's going to be a while before it's widely adopted. I think you think as well. Although everybody would have you believe otherwise who wants to sell you stuff. And I think, by the way,
right,
it's more than 4 times the amount of storage. We've tested it. It really is a hog and a beast. And it's very expensive, and it's very hard to work with. It taxes even the editing systems. The NLEs don't love it either. And it takes a lot more time to work with, especially if you're doing RAW, which is just insane. And that's a
right,
whole nother thing. And I guess that's what I was talking about where I say it's more than 4 times, especially when you start doing raw workflows and you start spreading it out and round tripping and stuff. It just gets nuts. And you can read all about that in your 4K book, which you can talk about in a second, but also on planet5d.com.
Why, gosh, Michael, thanks for the plug. What we did to tell you what you're talking about is there is an ebook that's available on Planet 5D for free, $0, called 4K Now or Later, where we went out and interviewed 30 industry experts and got their opinions. Some people are obviously shooting 4K, some people are not shooting 4K, and they give you all of the reasons, plus and minus, many of the ones that we've just discussed, but you can get that for free on planet5d.com. If you go to planet5d.com/join, and you get that as a free ebook, plus 4 other free ebooks. And where's my cash register sound? I don't have it ready. Sorry. Cha-ching!
Mitch,
plug.
You're welcome, man. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing light on this wonderful book and your wonderful site. Mitch, so if you were looking at the A7S for the holiday season as a camera to give to somebody or to buy for yourself, is that, what do you think of that camera or the GH4? What do you think of those? We know what you think of the 5D Mark III. You love it. What do you think of those two cameras? And are they both or either of them good for photo? We know that they are very competent in video at the very least. The A7S with that high ISO range is pretty good for video. But tell me what you think of these two cameras across the board.
All right. Of the two, my preference would be the Sony A7S.
I would agree.
I like the video that comes off of that sensor. It's a full frame sensor. I tend to love full frame sensors. The GH4 is a crop. It's a mirrorless, and it's a much smaller sensor. It's a micro four thirds sensor, if I remember right. I talk about so many cameras, my brain kind of fogs over sometimes.
Yeah, I think the only sensor smaller is the one in the Blackmagic cameras.
Right.
Yeah, it is a small sensor.
So my experience, I have not used the GH4 to take video or stills. So there's a caveat there with this. I have used the Sony A7S. When I had the Sony A7S from B&H, another cash register sound goes off, cha-ching. I was using my Canon lenses with the Metabones adapter, and I was shooting video and stills. If you're not using native lenses to the mount of the camera, and in this case, I think the Sony mount or an E-mount, I can't ever remember which one is which. So you have to use the proper lenses in order for the stills to not have to go through a delay. So if you're using the Metabones adapter, for example, you push the button, and like the point and shoots that my kids have, you push the button and then you pray that it's going to take the shot within the next second. You know, there's a lag time to it. And that comes through the fact that you're going through an adapter and trying to get the autofocus from the Canon lens or whatever brand of lens through the adapter to the camera, and it takes time, and there's a delay. For stills going that route, not using native lenses, I wouldn't touch either of those cameras with a 10-foot pole. I just cannot stand any kind of a delay when I push the shutter. It just drives me crazy. Now, if you're using native lenses that match the mount of the camera, then things are kosher and great. So my preference would be the A7S from Sony. I tend to feel like the GH4 video looks more like video versus film. And I don't know if you or the audience remember, but back in the old days when I was growing up, VHS and videotape came along, and Betamax and all that kind of stuff came along, and everything that was being shot for TV was shot at 30 frames a second, but it looked more vivid and more pure, I guess, more like the eye sees it. And I feel like the GH4 is more like that. It's more like it's not really as bad, but do you remember The Hobbit that was shot in 48 frames per second and 24 frames per second?
Yes.
Or was delivered in 24? The 48 frames per second was so awesome and so vivid, and you could see makeup and, lines and creases, and it pulled you right on out of the story, and you were so fascinated about looking at the scenes and the characters and the actors that you lost the story. Well, that's sort of how I feel about the GH4. I haven't seen any video from the GH4 that really just pulls me in and draws me in like a story.
Well, I think that's because the sensor is so small, it's really hard to get a shallow depth of field, and I think people underrate shallow depth of field so much because shallow depth of field really helps to tell the story, and it tells you where to focus. And when you have everything in focus and everything vividly in focus, especially in 4K or UHD in that case, you're looking all over and you're seeing things you wouldn't normally notice, like you're talking about lines in somebody's face. I would say this. I haven't found a mirrorless camera yet that I like for stills. I think the Sony A7S is as good, if not better, than anything I've seen, but it doesn't compare to in my mind, a D800 at 36 megapixels or a 5D Mark III at 26 or 24 megapixels. By the way, the Canon rumor is a 50 megapixel camera at some point as well for the DSLRs next year. I don't know how you feel about that. We'll come back to that in a minute, but it certainly doesn't look as sharp as that I don't think you can blow them up. So I wouldn't rely on it for stills, but you certainly could use it for stills. I think these are really video cameras, or they're pocket shooters, or kind of prosumer cameras for stills. And I would say this, with the GH4, I would definitely go with the A7S over the GH4. I think it's a much better image all the way around. I like that high ISO range, and I don't feel the need to record onboard 4K or compressed 4K anyway. And I like the form factor of the A7S. I don't really like that screen. I wish it swiveled like the GH4. But other than that, I think it's a pretty cool camera. I would go, personally, with the Zeiss lenses instead of putting a speed booster or a Metabones adapter, not a speed booster, it's their smart adapter. Their speed booster will do all sorts of bad things because it wants to take a crop sensor camera, and it's not a crop sensor, and enlarge that and make it a full frame. But I like their smart adapter, but I really would like to use the beautiful Zeiss glass that's purpose-built for the E-mount and for that camera, and I think that it works all the way around the board, and I haven't seen any photos or video that look better than the stuff that's shot on Zeiss glass that's purposely built for that camera. So that would be my pick. What about a 50 megapixel camera? Doesn't seem out of the possibilities for me. Does it seem that way for you?
I don't necessarily have any kind of a need for that. I don't have a problem with it. I would like to see some of the images. I did use the Nikon D800, for example, which is 32, or is it 36? 36 megapixels?
36, yes.
It's really awesome if you're going to shoot something and need to do a crop. I love being able to crop things. Now, I know there are some purists that say you should never crop any kind of an image, but we all know that Photoshop is king these days, and being able to do a zoom, for example, when you're cropping, you're effectively changing the field of view of your lens. You're effectively doing a zoom, right? So there are times where I'm out shooting something and I don't have a lens that maybe I'll have a 200 millimeter lens, and I really would rather frame it as if it was a 400 millimeter lens, and being able to have a large megapixel image that I can crop a section out of as a stills photographer, that really floats my boat. It gives me longer effective lenses than what I currently own. But do I have to have it? No.
See, I like it. I like it. I like it for the sharpness and the ability to blow it up so huge.
Right.
I also like it for the crop factor.
Right. Absolutely right. There are very good reasons for doing that. In terms of video, however,
it makes no difference.
I'm sorry?
It makes no difference. Once you're over 12, it really makes no difference.
Right. I mean, the difference comes, it even makes it harder if you think about it, with the fact that you've got a much bigger sensor. You've got more megapixels all the way around, right? You're having to take, say it's virtually a 6K image. I don't know exactly what the numbers were. I mean, the 5D Mark III is a 5.7K image, right? It's the stills are that wide.
So let's shoot 6K video then. Let's just skip 4K. Let's just shoot 6K, or go like Ikegami wants, and in Japan they want to go to 8K. And they've already got the capabilities with the. Why is it slipping my mind now? The TV station in Japan. Oh my God.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of it.
I do. But
You have the same problem that I do, Michael. My brain does not always come up with the words that I want it to come up with. But with taking a 1080 image out of the middle of or let me rephrase that, making a 1080 image out of a 5.7K sensor means you have to throw a whole bunch of data away in order to use the full sensor, but get a smaller image out, right?
Right.
So if you go to a 50 megapixel camera, like assuming it was a 5D Mark III, just for example, you're now talking about 7 or 8K worth of data, and you're then throwing a whole bunch of data away to get down to a video signal. So for video, it doesn't really make any sense.
Which
the only place it adds, which is what you said, but I'm just sort of explaining it more, I guess, or babbling on.
Right. No, but this is why Sony claims that they only made the A7S 12 megapixels. Now, one thing that's interesting is they've got a new camera, the A7 Mark II or the A7 II,
Right.
that has a 5-way gyroscope that seems like it would be really exciting for video, especially handheld video. That's not the camera for video, but I'd like to see that in the A7S Mark II or whatever, and I think that would be awesome. I'd love the ability in the future to shoot stabilized video without the need of steady cams or free flies or whatever. Not that I think they'll ever go away, but to be able to stabilize it a lot better for handheld in camera. Not that I think tripods will ever go away either, or monopods,
Right.
but it'd be nice to be able to do this stuff. Now, what about a budget camera or a starter camera for people who want to just get into photography this holiday season? What do you recommend? Obviously, Canon, Nikon, Sony, they all have lower end lines that can kind of introduce you to interchangeable lenses, the idea of a DSLR or a mirrorless, have high megapixel counts, can shoot video and stills. Samsung's got a nice offering, the NX1 I believe it's called. It's like $700 with a kit lens. Looks stunning, full HD video out over the HDMI. It can shoot 4K, blah, 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 blah.
Michael, it's almost as if you are psychic or incredibly intelligent, because I haven't told you this. I've been working on something, and I told you I've been working on something, but I don't think I ever told you what I was working on. I mean, you and I talk fairly often these days. But I have one of the reasons I built this studio was in order to do some training. I'm going to be selling some training on Planet 5D. And one of the products, which I have just finished editing this morning, is a product that I'm calling the Camera Conundrum. Now, it fits exactly into what you just asked about, and that is a 3.5 hour training program that talks about a lot of the stuff you and I have just talked about, and I know you didn't probably know I was going to get into this, but it's available and gives you many of the answers that we've just been talking about, but in a lot more detail. One of the subjects that I talk about in the Camera Conundrum, and you can find that, a plug at planet5d.com/cc if anybody out there is interested. The lower end cameras, my sort of camera of choice, because it has good autofocus on it, is the Canon 70D, the 70D.
It's a very good camera. I like that camera a lot. I'm not a fan of autofocus at all, as you know, but it's a good camera in general. Yes.
But you got to realize there are a lot of people out there, for example, me, who are one-man band kind of things, and in situations where I am doing a recording, maybe I'm using a monopod, or maybe I'm putting something up on a tripod, and in the studio, for example, I've got traditional tape marks on the floor of where I've set the focus, and if I drift forwards a little bit, then I suddenly become out of focus. If I were using the 70D, then as I moved and as I breathed a little bit, then it would focus, and that would be very useful for somebody like me. I don't have a guy like Peter Poon, cha-ching, in the background doing focus for me.
Right.
So I have to preset focus. And if I were in that situation, the 70D would be perfect for me. It has an articulating screen, so I can even watch what I'm doing, turn it around, flip it towards me like I do with the cell phone.
Why don't you ever show Nikon love? Nikon's got some good cameras. By the way, I think the problem is you bop your head a lot. So I've done this. I've shot myself. I taped it off and been able to keep myself in focus the whole time by standing there like this and actually doing it instead of going like this, like I'm a bobblehead on a dashboard of a car.
Well, but I'm very animated, Michael. You know that.
I know. I love it. I'm teasing, Mitch. I'm teasing you. I love it. Listen, I think the 70D is a fine camera. It's a good camera, and you bring up some good points. What about this monopod you reviewed the other day, the Magopod?
Let me also say, by the way, because you brought it up, I do love Nikon. They produce great products. I happen to be a Canon guy. I've got a bunch of Canon lenses. In order to use Nikons, and I have to have an adapter, and actually the Canon lenses don't fit on the Nikons, and so...
Listen, I like them both. I'm just saying, that's all.
I'm just telling you and the viewers that happen to maybe not know me. That's why I'm a Canon guy, is because I have Canon lenses.
All right.
And it comes down to, in many cases, you and I have both talked about it before, the Mac versus PC wars. It's Nikon versus Canon.
Look, we've got Canon in this studio right now. We have Canon lenses here. I mean, Canon cameras here. So there's love for everybody here. We've got Sony A7Ss, Nikons, Canons. We got it all. We got contour cameras. We've got everything. We even have some Panasonic cameras. I was looking around. So I don't think we miss anybody here.
Well, in my case, I just happen to be a Canon guy, so that's why I end up talking a lot about Canon.
It's all right. I'm just busting chops.
The MogoPod is pretty awesome, and actually, if it wasn't holding the light that's sort of shining on my face, I would show it to you. I'm using it as a light stand.
It's a completely, well, that's an interesting thing for a monopod. I mean, that's a good ringing endorsement right there, that it can be a device that doesn't necessarily have to be held all the time. It can be a cross between a monopod and a tripod. So it builds on the idea that Manfrotto has put out with the monopod I love, that has the feet on it. And this is, there you go. You got rid of your light or something. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the MogoPod exactly is that, and these are very wide feet. The Manfrotto, very popular 561B VHD, or whatever the right number is, which is now 562, by the way, the feet on it are about a third of the distance of these feet. And so you can't really use that monopod as a tripod at all. But with the MogoPod, these feet are very wide. You can see it's taking up the whole screen. And there's another Home Depot shop light with a grocery bag on it. See, it's really a grocery bag.
I think we need to get Adam Holtz on this. Poon, what do you think? I mean, I'm watching Adam shoot shaky video at Rock Paper Photo. He hands me with the monopod, he hands me the camera and says, "You want to shoot a little?" I know exactly where he's going with that. He wants to make sure we get all these stable shots.
Right.
Poon, are you in agreement with that? Do we need to get Adam a MogoPod? Poon?
No comment.
Listen, I look. Everybody's a victim today. I'm busting everybody's chops. You like this thing a lot, though.
I do. I especially, which I can't really demonstrate on this kind of TV or this small screen. If you go to plan5d.com and look in the recent stories, there is a review of the MogoPod.
And it's reasonably priced. I mean, the whole thing together with the feet is cheaper than the competitor's product.
Right, but the thing that slays me, I like simplicity, Michael. When you go to a tripod, what do you have? Like 3 different levers on each foot that you have to flip and lock in place?
Yes.
Or a turn handle. With the MogoPod, it's one twist. Expand it as far as you need it, lock it in place, twist it back, and you're done. It's not all of this standing there going, oh, got to lock this, got to lock that. It drives me crazy. It's simple things like that drive me crazy.
I hear you. Well, it certainly seems like a cool. It seems like a cool product. We got to get one in here and play with it. I watched the review in length the other day, and I thought it was super cool. And I really want to check one out now. And by the way, you've made the introduction to Rode mic, and we use the Rode mics, and we love them. They're the official mic of Be Terrific. You can hear how great they sound now here, not only with me but with Peter. And then, of course, we really love them. So, thank you for making that introduction, and of course, pushing me to become a Rode guy. We really do love them. What is the deal with the thing that excites you the most? What is the thing when you look out in the next 12 months that is the most exciting to you?
Boy, I wish you'd told me you were going to ask me that question. Right now, I think there's a real glut in the market of cameras. I don't know of anything that's coming down the pike that just will float everybody's boat. It feels to me like in the last 2 years that we've gotten so many cameras that came to us, the GH4, the Canon 5D Mark III, which is now almost 3 years old, was 2012. all of the Blackmagic cameras, the Sony A7S. It just feels like every new camera that comes out is just sort of ho-hum. There's a little excitement, but there isn't anything that's just blasting the market that everybody says, like when the 5D Mark II was announced, that, oh my God, everybody's got to have this one camera. I think it's becoming more of a commodity, and it's getting hard. And it's much like you and I talked about the other day about the iPhones. The initial iPhone excitement was really cool, and versions 2 and 3 were awesome. And now the more you go, it's kind of like, okay, it's got some new good features on it, but it's not revolutionary. And I don't know that there's ever anything that could be revolutionary coming down the pike, unless somebody were to
What kind of positive
like,
attitude is that, Mitch? I don't know if there's anything that's revolutionary that can come down the pike. Well, geez, I'm glad you weren't in the initial iPhone meetings when Steve Jobs said we're going to do something revolutionary. Oh, yeah, well, I don't think there's anything revolutionary that you guys can do about phones, so why don't we just quit while we're ahead? Listen, Mitch, of course there's going to be revolutionary stuff, and of course there could be. They are choosing to hold things back for whatever reason, but of course they can be, or maybe it's that they just aren't thinking about it. I will tell you this. You told me to get with the iPhone 6 Plus. I told you how much I didn't like it when I first got it. I'm warming up to it. I will tell you this. I said this yesterday. I discovered how to get the operating system working better. I was having a major problem with the operating system. I deleted Test Flight. I'm a beta tester for a lot of these apps. We used to keep them only on the Be Terrific devices, and then because Test Flight is now so much easier to put on your iPhone in iOS 8, and not have to give your UDID number and all that stuff. And even though I had problems in the past, I figured with the other devices in the operating system, and I always suspected Test Flight, I figured it had to be solved now, and this was a much more streamlined way of doing it. And no, since I've deleted Test Flight and those beta apps and decided I don't want to be your beta tester, my operating system's working flawlessly. So that's good to report. Yes, I don't think that they made enough advancements, but I do now like the bigger size, especially when I try to go back to the smaller phone. It's some adjustments, but realistically, you're right. And I said this. They haven't made enough advancements. I've loved every other iPhone I've owned, and I've owned every one except for the 3G. But I do not love this one. I do not think this is the best phone I've ever had. I just think it's a phone.
I will argue with you on that one, Michael, because I absolutely love the 6. I have the 6 Plus like you. And for me, as an older gentleman who is having trouble seeing more and more all the time, this big screen is rocking.
That's what I said. I like the 6 Plus screen. I said I warmed up to it.
I know.
Oh,
I know.
You
but
said you want to disagree with me, but you said the same thing I said.
But you said you're just not as excited about it as some of the other ones. And I'm telling you, I'm much more excited about the 6 Plus than you are. And that's because of the large screen.
You know what the interesting thing is? I swear to you, this is the truth. I love iPhones. I love iPads. For the last year, I've said all I want is to not have to use a laptop or a computer and all that stuff. And now I feel like I'm going backwards. I'd love to have that 11-inch MacBook Air. And I'm doing a lot more proposals. I'm doing a lot more emails. And even though I love the Bridge Air, I want to be able to navigate a lot easier with the trackpad and the whole deal. I think I'd like an 11-inch MacBook Air. I'm happy with a 13-inch. I can sit in bed at night, put it up on my knees, blah, blah, blah. I can do that with my Bridge Air and my iPad Air, but it's not the same. And especially like on set, I can navigate stuff a lot better with a laptop. And I've even thought about, and dare I say it, buy a Chromebook or a netbook, what Dell is calling the mini computer, which is a PC, a netbook basically, for the set, because a lot of times the crew needs this computer, this laptop for what they're doing, and I don't really want to resort to an iPad on set as much as I love my iPad. I think my iPad's good for consuming content, for shooting, for editing some stuff and having some fun with, but to really work on documents and spreadsheets and all that stuff, I think I got to go backwards.
I don't disagree with you there. I don't do any kind of real sophisticated editing or work with my iPhone nor my iPad. I always jump to my laptop. If you were asking me what computer I really drool for, it's the 27-inch iMac with the Retina screen. That I would kill
Yeah, and we have a couple of those around here, not the Retina, but the regular ones, and we love them. And I have just put an older one on my desk that we kind of moved out of service. And although it's a little slow, I enjoy working on that big screen. I actually think I agree with you. My eyes are getting worse. I like the bigger screen. And that's maybe why I want to use an 11-inch or a 13-inch MacBook Air, because it's not that much heavier than an iPad. It's not that much more expensive, especially if you buy the lower end models. And I got a bigger screen and a keyboard and all that stuff and not that I don't have that with the Bridge. Like I said, that I love the Bridge, but I don't know. And yeah, I mean, who wouldn't love that big screen? You just can't take it into bed. That's all. Well, I mean, I guess you
Michael.
could, but that would be iRobot, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be a little bizarre. But have you seen the Retina screen on the 27-inch?
You know what? I'm actually going to look at it this weekend. I haven't seen it. I'm going to look at it because I know somebody who's deciding between that and the regular one, and I'm trying to help them make the decision. My mother-in-law is getting a new computer, and so I'm going to help her make that decision. And then obviously we want to look at that. I'm curious to look at it too for us for down the road. I love Retina, and I love that. And as I said, my eyes are getting worse. So.
Yeah, it's the situation that I talk about in the Camera Conundrum. Again, another plug. With 4K and above, unless you're sitting within 7 feet of the monitor or the TV, your eye can't resolve it anyway, especially as we get older. And sitting in front of that it's a 5K monitor, the iMac Retina, when I've seen it at the store, and I've been there 3 times now, just absolutely drooling over that thing. It is so clear, so crisp, and even if at 4 feet, the text looks so much nicer, so much easier to read. That's the thing that excites me. You asked me about things that excite me. Well, that's the thing that's doing it now, but I can't afford to get one. So if you guys want to send in cash, go to – never mind, I'm kidding. Now, I do want to go back to, you asked me what would excite me or what would be revolutionary in the camera market, and that would be something that I've been asking for the last 2.5, 3 years, and that's to have an iPhone-esque kind of operating system on a DSLR or on a video camera where people can put their own software, like the iPhone. The cool thing about the iPhone is people make so many great apps. Now, if you could do that with a camera body where Canon or Nikon could have a store where people could upload software.
I'm gonna stop you right there, and I'm gonna say I know exactly what you're talking about. You're basically saying let's turn a camera into a mobile device or a mobile device into a camera. There are some that are out there. Nikon has tinkered with it. Samsung is doing it. Only with Android so far, not with iOS. Right. I do not understand why nobody has gone full bore on this. And I got to tell you something. Apple should get behind it and team up with one of these companies or something. Because let me tell you, this is where it's all going. This is where it should go. Guys like Filmic Pro and VisiWig are making great apps, and it should all port to cameras. And why else are you doing Android on a camera if you're not having these apps on it? And basically it's a watered down Android. It's not a good operating system. It's clunky, and actually cameras the way they are today function better than the way that they're positioned. I would say price is probably the issue. You're not going to have cell phone companies subsidizing the price of these, and so you've got to engineer them, you've got to put the computers in them, and you've got to have the camera equipment in them. So I think that that's probably the issues that they're running into, but somebody should take the slam dunk here and absolutely do this. It's screaming for it. I mean, I thought of this 100 years ago when my phone and my camera were going to converge and we could go live from anywhere. Well, Teradek made that happen, and then Apple has made that happen with being able to stream from the iPhone. But it seems to only make sense to have an app store on these cameras and have it run seamlessly and work as good as these devices do today. I think that would be great and would give us a whole host of new features. I think the camera companies are scared, and they're sitting there watching sales decrease going, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And they're talking about going after the phone manufacturers, but they're not. They should be teaming up with them, not trying to go after them. And there's some positive spin and some positive news for you today. Go join them and make a difference. And we say that on Planet 5D and the Planet 5Ders who are watching, and we say that here on Be Terrific. Now, I couldn't agree with you more on that, Mitch.
Yay, we agree. We agree on a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Michael.
we
you know.
We do agree on a lot of stuff. And look, the one thing that I find so interesting is I put my laptop on a desk or even a smaller screen that's, bigger than my laptop, and I can't see the screen anymore to answer emails and stuff. I really do, even with my glasses on or contacts, and I need that bigger real estate if I'm going to work at a desk. So I agree with you. I'm excited for the bigger real estate, and I actually yearn for the day when I can have a flat screen on the wall and AirPlay to that flat screen or something, and have it be 60 inches to work on what I'm doing. Although if people walk in the room, they see my email, that makes me, I don't have anything to hide, but it makes me a little uncomfortable.
The one thing that absolutely is killing the world right now, and I consider this a negative, okay? So I'm going negative.
Okay, go negative.
I want to see people fix this, and that is posture. Laptops are killing posture. I see so many people walking around with their heads hunched over because they spend the whole frickin' day on a laptop. Instead of having a large screen that is properly ergonomically mounted in front of them, like my iMac, if you're sitting over their laptop, you're killing your back and your neck.
And you sit on a ball, one of those balls to help your posture, right? And you love that.
Which popped last night. You should have seen me hit the floor.
That's awesome. That is a story we need to hear. How did this happen, Mitch?
It's 5 years old. I used to buy an exercise ball every couple of months because they would just pop. And I bought a Duraball by whoever makes the Duraball, a Duraball Pro, and it has 2 layers.
There's got to be like some kind of warning on this so you don't hit the floor like that. I mean, that's just dangerous.
I had absolutely no warning whatsoever. I was sitting
That's also
there,
hilarious. I wish you had a GoPro on that.
I wish I had been recording myself because I was sitting there editing on Final Cut 10, and all of a sudden I was on the floor. The cats were screaming from the room. They didn't know what happened. I didn't know what happened, but it popped.
Okay, I want to tell you what I'm most looking forward to in the next 12 months. At this point, it's iWatch. And I don't know if I'm going to get one when it comes out. My wife thinks it's hideous. I don't love the design. I think they could have done better. I think iWatch 2 will be probably the one I really want. But, man, I can't freaking wait for iWatch.
I agree with you there. That is totally different technology that's never been, I shouldn't say never. There are other watches, but, Apple tends to do things the right way the first time. Although, like you say, Generation 2 and Generation 3 tend to be the ones that you really want. The thing that I have not seen one, but from the video, it looks a little thick to me, and that kind of bothers me. I would wish it was thinner. And the fact that you have to put it on a charger overnight also kind of concerns me, but we'll see how it goes. I agree. I'm very excited by the iWatch.
So, Mitch, we're going to be live at CES 2015 in January on Be Terrific. We're going to have a lot of great coverage. We're going to be streaming live and syndicating to Planet 5D as well, right? Can we announce that to the Planet 5Ders?
Of course. Of course you are.
And that's going to be awesome.
Right.
I hope that, you have an open invite. I hope you make it and come and join us and do some interviews and stuff. If not, we'll be streaming anyway to the Planet 5Ders, and hopefully they'll enjoy the content. And to, of course, our Be Terrific fans. And we've enjoyed partnering with you guys for, Comic-Con and Engadget X-Span and all the stuff we're doing. And we'd invite the Michael Artsis show, if you were interested, to syndicate on Planet 5D as well. It's a daily show, which you're on right now.
I love you, Michael. I do.
I love you too, Mitch.
I love everything you're doing.
Thank you.
And I love especially the fact that you are focusing on positive news. You and I have gotten into several rants on negative stuff, not necessarily here, but in other times, and generally it's in private because I love public positive news. I live about 3.5, 4 miles from Ferguson. Yeah. And everybody's heard about Ferguson lately, and I'm just so sick of hearing all of that negativity that's coming from all the people on all sides. And I love that Michael Artsis show is all about positivity.
Well, thank you very much. Certainly a sad situation all the way around in Ferguson, but I think that, people really got to figure out how to look forward and focus on positives, and we need to give them positives in life. I'm certainly not, making light of what happened at all or saying don't stand up. I firmly believe in it, and we will say when we believe that something needs to be stood up for, we will back that. But as be terrific, because that part of that is positive. But I really believe in positive energy, focusing forward, and bringing people positive news because it's not out there, and positive insights and stuff like that because it's not out there. And I think people really need it and they want it. And so thank you very much. And we enjoy doing that. And we enjoy uplifting and inspiring and enlightening people. We enjoy informing and entertaining them and engaging them. So, hopefully we do a lot of that. And, thank you very much. Like I said, it is a tragedy what happened there. Any way you shake it, any way you look at it, whichever side of the road you're on there, you certainly can't deny that whatever happened, and I don't know if we'll ever know the truth, but whatever happened certainly was a tragedy. And I wish that the only thing I wish is that there was more responsible journalism out there, because I think a lot of the journalism that got out in the first few days was irresponsible and caused a lot of the problems that exist today across the board in that situation, and even invalidated a lot of the witnesses. And so that's not good to hear no matter what. But we're all about being positive, and thank you. So, you think about the Michael Artsis show thing for CES, the Be Terrific show for CES will be on Planet 5D. I'm excited to announce that, proud to announce that. And like I said, open standing invitation. We'd love to have you, and I know that you and I will be rocking in 2015 for a lot of other stuff. We love Planet 5D. It's a great place to get all your DSLR information and blogs and all sorts of great stuff. But, and I can't say enough things about you. Before I let you go, thank you for joining us today. And you're welcome to come on once a week and let us know what's going on in the DSLR world, or certainly, have a regular segment where we talk about this stuff. But before I let you go, tell everybody how you started it and how you got it, because it's kind of an inspirational story, I think. A lot of people, you were a major manufacturer in the United States for many, many years, and probably thought it was going to be a career there. And some things changed, and I think that happens to a lot of people. And that's a hard transition for many people, but you took lemons and made lemonade, and I think you were kind of taking steps before that happened because you were passionate about something, and being photography and astronomy and all that stuff. But you took the strides, and then you went full throttle on it, which really, I think, is an inspirational story.
Thank you. Do you got 2 hours? Because I love to tell the long story.
Hold on, Pete, do we have 2 hours? I'm sorry, we're out of time. Thank you and good night. No, I'm just kidding. Tell the story. I gave you the floor. You want to talk for 2 hours? I mean, I'll make some calls, and I've got a meeting, a post-production meeting to get into. But yeah, I mean, as long as the viewers want us to hang in there, you keep talking.
I do feel like it's a very wonderful story, and I do appreciate you asking. I actually started Planet 5D about 2 months after the Canon 5D Mark II was announced. I had, as you said, I had been a photographer. I was shooting stock photos in order to make some money on the side so that I wasn't taking money out of my kids' stomachs. I was feeding them with my Boeing income. And then I wanted to play with photography gear. So I started selling stock photos through iStock and places like that. And when the 5D Mark II was announced, I had always had a passion or a desire to start a website that potentially maybe someday in the future could maybe take me away from my day job. Now, like you said, I expected my day job to be something that was going to be my retirement. I was going to work there until 65 or whatever the right age was for retirement. I was going to get my kids through college and have a steady income to support my family. And I was going to do this Planet 5D thing as a hobby. And it took off. Planet 5D was in the right place at the right time. And it's started really well, and I started spreading the word. I was going out to forums and Twitter and Facebook and telling people about Planet 5D. And 2 years into it, Boeing decided that they needed to send my job overseas and they didn't need me anymore. Luckily for me, I had 32 years in, so I'm able to take a tiny bit of early retirement. And I was also given 6 months of severance package, which was awesome. And so I had the choice at that point of whether I was going to try to 5D be a full-time job and feed my family. At that point, it certainly wasn't anywhere close to that. It was a hobby, and I had some advertisements on it, and I was making a little bit of money, but it wasn't anything that was going to feed my family long term. So I took that 6-month period as an evaluation, and I said, they've given me this blessing to go out and try this thing, and it worked. I managed to find an advertising manager, Jeff from Pier 55 Media. There's another plug for you. Was able to triple my ad rates. I more than instantly doubled my income. We added some new advertisers. Long story short, I'm making enough money to feed my family. I've got one daughter in college and another one coming up in a couple of years. And it's just been an amazing feeling. I've gotten to go to Hollywood and be on Hollywood sets. I've met, directors of photography on multi-million-dollar movies. I've met TV actors. I've met awesome people like Michael Artsis. If you had asked me when I was working at Boeing whether I would ever have the opportunity to be on a Hollywood set watching them film a movie or a TV show, I would have said there's no way in hell that's ever going to happen. And yet here I am regularly getting to meet with these people, to do interviews with them. And it's just been this amazing dream come true. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm now, like I said, making products that I can help educate people out there on the planet. Planet 5D has been doing that all along, but we've never put together a dedicated training program to help you through an entire process of doing a film or a show like this or anything else. So we're now in the position where I can start doing that kind of stuff. We've hired some writers at Planet 5D, and things are growing and expanding, and it's been so amazing. I tell the story and I give myself goosebumps because it's not anything that I ever planned to do, but it's been a wonderful ride, and I'm so happy to be able to even be on a show with you like this and tell people that it does happen and people are able to change careers in their later lives, and it works. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, I think you've got to be creative. You've got to be inventive. You've got to follow your dream and your passion. You've done that, and dreams can come true. And I love the story, and I love that you turn things around. And at your age in life, which unfortunately you're a young guy, but unfortunately it's hard to get hired once you are rehired, once you are kind of put aside to pasture, so to speak. And that's unfortunate, but I love that you have this uplifting story of taking the bull by the horns and saying, I've got my back against the wall. I'm passionate about this. Let's make this work and figure it out how to do it. And you do have a really great story, and you also help and influence a lot of people and show them the way, and you teach people. And I think that that's great. And I want to remind people that sometimes this holiday season is really awesome, and sometimes it can be really hard, especially if you're alone and things are a little bit down. But just like Mitch did, just like we do, all of us, as I told you yesterday, you can turn things around. You can, really make things happen. You have to have the desire. You have to put in the hard work, and you have to have that can-do, never-give-up attitude. And as I tell my son Jack, you got to keep those legs moving. They taught me that in football when I was a kid, and that's what the coaches used to yell at us, keep those legs moving. After you get hit, keep the legs moving. And it's the best advice in any part of life. Just keep moving forward. And so I think your story is really inspirational. Look, you were handed lemonades. You were doing something for fun. You were working hard at your career, and you were handed lemonades or lemons, and you made lemonade instead of really just saying, "Oh man, I'm depressed," or you could be doing anything today. You could be,
Right.
working at a job you're not happy about. You could be miserable, but instead you've turned things around and you're actually helping and enlightening other people and you're enriching their lives too. And that's commendable. But the best part is you're following your dream and, you're living the dream because of it. And I really commend you and I'm excited about it. And I really do love Planet 5D. I'm excited to see what happens in 2015 as you guys spread your wings even more and continue to grow.
Thank you, Michael. I'm equally as excited to see what you do with Be Terrific.
Thanks. Well, maybe I should call Jeff. I mean, that was as good a endorsement anybody could have. I should give him a call right now.
I've given you his name and phone number before because he's good at finding sponsors and managing that whole thing. It was one of the smartest things that I did, and it's rather interesting because just before I was here, I had a phone call with a young lady that I had met a month or two ago who just got laid off. And she was like, I know you told this story, but give me some advice. Tell me what it's like being laid off and how you've managed to go forwards. And I told her this story, that one of the best things I did was that I realized that there are certain aspects of my life, or of my business career, I should say, maybe, that I knew I couldn't do very well myself. I could learn how to be an advertising manager. I could learn what the right rates were to charge for my ads for a blog that's getting this much traffic. But at the time I said, I need to focus on the blog itself and not on the sort of business side of it. So hiring Jeff was one of the best things I did. He took over that side. He managed it. He told me what the right prices were. We negotiated all this stuff. But it was good to have somebody to help lead me through it. So,
well, speaking of sponsors, we've got to get to our sponsors so we can pay the bills, keep the lights on here. But
okay.
you're 100% right, and I don't want to let you go on that. You're 100% right. You've got to delegate. You've got to work to your strengths and let other people work to your weaknesses and be a team. And that's what we do here. We're a team. And, you've got to stay in your lane. Sure, there's overlap, but you've got to stay in your lane because that's what you're good at and that's what you need to focus on. So, yeah, what are your takeaways? You gave this girl advice. I think you shared it with us. That's great. But what are your takeaways? Would it be delegate, follow your dream, find what you're passionate about, follow your dream and never give up? I mean, come up with your own. I'm just saying, it seems like those are the ones, but what are they?
Well, the one thing that I told her that you just said, which I think is fabulous because our stories sort of align in that regard, was that the word consistent resonates with me right now because as I've thought about the last 6 years of Planet 5D, there have been other websites that started at the same time that I did that wanted to cover this market. And the vast majority of them are not here now. And the main reason is that I was consistent. I posted something every day for the last 6 years. Not Saturdays and Sundays most of the time, and there were days that I missed. But because I kept my legs moving like you were talking, my legs have been moving at Planet 5D since day one. I'm still here and I'm making money and I'm working my butt off. I work all the time just like you do. It's not easy, but the number one thing that I told this gal on the phone was if you're going to do something other than go just find another job, she has a website. She's in kind of personal health stuff or self-help. I said, you've got to start publishing more than once a week. You've got to publish every day. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be every day, but be consistent about it. Get your message out there. Once a week isn't going to keep people active. Just like you, Michael, you and I talked about doing a weekly show and a monthly show, and look at you, you're now doing daily. And I believe that consistency, keeping the message out there, even if people don't tune in every day, you're going to be more successful because you're in people's face more often than if you're just going, okay, I'll publish a new story and it's a week or a month or whatever.
Well, yeah.
So my message is be consistent.
And we're there for them when they want to tune in and when they can tune in, and then they know that, today they might miss, but tomorrow they'll be there. I agree. Consistency is very important. Focus and drive is very important. And focus. I mean, you helped me with saying focus, focus. You
Right.
want to do all these things, focus. And then you'll make it happen. And yeah, there are a million things we'd like to do with Be Terrific. We got to crawl before we can walk, walk before we can run. So there's certain things we can bite off now, and there are more things we'll be able to bite off in the future. And they're all on the roadmap, but we have to focus and stay focused. So I agree with all of that stuff. I think it's great advice. Mitch, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I think it was a lot of fun to have you on. Let's get that internet connection fixed for the next time and get you on again soon.
Okay. I'll be up in the planetarium next time.
You could be listen, you can be in the observatory on the bottom floor, which would be the weirdest observatory. But listen, you can be down in the observatory, okay? Just plug the internet in or whatever you need to do. Just let's get better internet down there. That's all. I know that the viewers have put up with it. Your viewers, our viewers, everybody. It's all good. But we want to raise the bar. And I know you're still with a hammer and nail down there. You're still doing construction. Look, you got white walls and a TV. That's what you've got.
Yeah. Well, it used to be brick and concrete walls, and now it's white plaster walls. So I'm moving up in the world, Michael.
There you go.
Thanks so much for having me on. I really, I love talking to you. I love what you're doing, and I'm thrilled to be on whenever you want me.
Great. Well, we'd love to have you on. I think we should talk about doing a once-a-week hit from you, and certainly come on at special times to do extended interviews. We just did an hour straight, an hour and 18 straight without commercial breaks, Mitch. That's pretty impressive.
I need a break, Michael.
I couldn't even find a time to do a commercial break. Our sponsors probably want to kill us. So I'll tell you what. You guys love us. Stay tuned and watch the commercials, and then support our sponsors so we can continue doing this for you.
Amen.
Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of everyone here at Be Terrific, for Peter Poon, for Adam Holtz, for the entire crew, and Peter who holds down the fort, thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Michael Artsis. Be Terrific.